The last 4 years have basically just been airports, Airbnbs, and different gyms every few months. And somehow I've managed to maintain and improve the physique the whole freaking time. I get a lot of questions like, how do you not get fat on trips, and how do you hold your condition when you are living out of a suitcase? So today's video, I'm gonna run you through exactly how I stay in shape when I'm traveling, the systems, the rules, the non-negotiables, so that you can copy paste this the next time you jump on a plane. So I'm gonna teach you how you can travel, stay lean, and keep your hard-earned muscle when you're traveling, so you can enjoy without having to worry about your physique and stay looking at your absolute best. The first thing I want you to do is going to be a bit of a thought experiment. This is not going to be as copy-paste as the rest of the video, but I want you to think and ask yourself, what would my ideal day look like? Regardless of the physique maintenance requirements, unfiltered, what would my ideal dream day look like when I'm traveling? And the goal here is not to find a middle ground where either one or the other is grabbing the steering wheel. The goal is to find out how you can spend your traveling days to the most ideal capacity without sacrificing your physique at all. So the goal is to find out how your dream ideal day is going to be behind the wheel all the time, and the physique helps navigate so you can have both while the vacation or trip is always going to be leading. Are you gonna go on a vacation, or are you more of a digital nomad like myself who's going to live in vacation-like environments and continue working in a sort of elevated lifestyle design setup? If you do go on a vacation, do you prefer to stay in something of an all-inclusive resort? You know, kick your feet up, hang out at the pool, slightly more passive with a lot of food access? Or do you like to book a hotel and eat out, or perhaps stay in an apartment and cook a bit of your own food? How active do you like to be on your ideal day? Do you go out and explore? How high is your step count going to be approximately? And all of these things matter when you are designing your ideal game plan of how to keep your physique while living your ideal traveling days. So if you go on a vacation in your ideal day, do you hit the gym? If not, it's important for you to know that you will not lose any muscle if you do not train for even 2 weeks. If you sleep sufficiently, still roughly keep hitting your protein targets, and stay hydrated at all times. Yes, you will lose some muscle fullness, but that's just because your muscles will let go of some glycogen storage, and that's basically just stored carbohydrates inside the muscle, which make the muscle fibers more full and kind of create this cell swelling, which is always going to be higher than for untrained people. So whenever you go on vacation and you kind of like, you know, feel like shit, I'm getting a little bit softer, maybe I'm losing a bit of muscle, and then, I don't know if you've experienced this, but you get home from vacation, you're getting your first gym session in again, and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, yo, it still kind of seems to be there. I didn't really lose anything. That's because once you get back into the gym, you know, your muscles are gonna restore the glycogen levels again, and you're gonna get back to the state of having the same visuals as before, whereas actually all along you didn't actually lose any muscle fiber. It may look a bit softer, but on a cellular tissue level, it's always been the same. You don't build muscle in a day, you will not lose it in a day. It's just cosmetic, and it will be back as soon as you hit the gym again. And if I speak for myself, on my ideal day, there's definitely going to be a gym session in it. I love to walk on the beach feeling that kind of inflated cell swelling. So whenever I travel, which is all the time basically in the last 4 years non-stop, Mr. No Fixed Address, the first thing I do when I look for accommodation or an area to live is find out where the best gyms are. And I do this all the time. I don't think which location, which city, which beach. No, I think instead, what country, which coast, and then the first thing I do is I open up Google Maps and I scout where the best gyms are within that big radius. I'm looking at photos, equipment, reviews, and I ask myself, is this somewhere I actually want to spend 5 to 7 hours every single week? I screenshot everything and map everything out in a document, kind of in a similar way of how a detective would spread everything out and map everything out on the wall. And my rule is, if I can get there within 30-minute walk, then it's an option. 30 minutes is gonna be perfect just because it kind of forces me to get my steps up already to somewhat of a decent level. I live a life with a lot of freedom as this kind of digital nomad, but unlike a traditional backpacker who could just drift anywhere whenever, my freedom is always going to be tied to good gym locations that meet my subjective standard. If I go to places, for example, like Phi Phi Islands in Thailand or a Greek island with only these like typical Mediterranean crappy ass old school gyms, right? Then I'm in and out in about 2 or 3 days max, because I need to get back into my bubble, the places with the proper gyms. And of course I could train in some broken down island gym, but I simply just choose not to. I spend 5 to 7 hours a week training and filming, so if the gyms suck, my whole trip is kind of going to suck by default. My lifestyle is built around that standard. That's what it's like for me, but it depends fully on what your lifestyle or vacation design is gonna be like in your ideal dream case scenario and what you value most in it. Now let's get a bit more into the practical copy and pasting stuff. When I'm traveling, I try to train always first thing in the morning, as early as possible. And the reason is, if I get my session done in the morning, I'm gonna be free for the remaining part of the day. I can just enjoy the day, explore, hit the beach, be social, and I don't have that little weight, that little stint in the back of my head telling me, shit, I still need to go out and train. And I've tested it both ways. Training after being in the sun all day is usually really going to be a trashy ass session. You're gonna be sunburned, dehydrated, low on energy, probably a bit sleepy from either the sun exposure, activities, or maybe even a bit of drinking. The pump is gonna be very weak, CNS is gonna be flatlined, concentration is gone, and the odds of you skipping the gym completely go through the roof. And if you do go, it's just gonna be of low quality. So if you do go, you probably are gonna be caffeinated at that time. It's gonna be a bit too late, and it kind of gets from bad to worse. So if you're someone who tends to say, I'll go later, when you're traveling, that will usually mean you won't go at all. Now within my kind of normal travel lifestyle design setup, so this is not gonna be vacation, but for me, my normal day-to-day life, I like to get up 6 in the morning, work for about 6 hours, and then hit the gym at about 12 to 1 p.m. So then still I'll have some spare time left afterwards to do a bit of more work or just go chill for the rest of the day. And the sun exposure is going to be the main big differentiator between how I would spend my time on a vacation versus in my normal day-to-day life, because in this case I'll just be indoors for the first 6 hours, so I won't run into the fatigue that the sun is going to bring me, right? Or doing different activities. So on vacation, wake up, optionally caffeinate, gym, and then go straight to vacation mode. Now how I structure my training when I travel is going to depend on how realistically I'll be able to hit the gym. So if the gym is going to be good, if it's going to be pretty close by, so within 30 minutes of walking for example, and my schedule is going to be pretty chilled, then honestly I would just keep hitting my usual split most of the times. I don't try to kind of reinvent the wheel or change anything up just because I'm going to be in a new country or in a new location. But if I know I'll only make it, let's say like 3 times per week, then I'll change a little bit of how I train. And that would mean hitting more muscle groups per training session. So the setup could be something like upper, lower, full body, or 3 times per week full body, and not because it's going to be optimal forever, but because when I'm on the road, you do want to get the maximum bang for your buck. And when in doubt, high frequency of each muscle group is going to be a good thing, because if it turns out that you won't be hitting as many sessions as you plan to, you at least hit everything already, and that's going to be enough for maintenance. Now, one of the biggest reasons why I stay lean when I'm traveling is simply because I'll be walking a lot. At home, you might be sat behind the desk for most of the day. On trips, what I try to do is I try to walk everywhere. Walk to the gym, walk to the shops, walk to the restaurants, walk around in the city or beach instead of taking taxis. Walk as much as you possibly can. If you're doing this daily, it's not going to be crazy for you to burn an additional 500 to 1,000 calories just from walking. And that's going to be a huge buffer. It's basically already your dessert or extra dinner calories paid for just by being on your feet and exploring. So I set a simple rule. If it's walkable, I walk. Even if that means that going for a little solo walk for about 30 to 60 minutes in the evening just to kind of top my steps up. And when you're on the go, tracking calories to the gram is going to be near impossible. Restaurant foods, random meals, different cuisines, You won't be able to weigh it, so you have kind of no idea of how much oil, for example, is going to be used. So instead of kind of obsessing over my FitnessPal, I use a few simple rules. Hit my daily protein target, don't exceed your daily calorie target, and save flexibility for the evening meal. One big tip, always ask yourself, what is the best thing that I can do in the current situation? Since you won't be able to possibly track accurately, the best thing you can do is just go based off of guesswork. So, hit your protein target, and that is going to be 1.8 grams per kilo of body weight, and do not exceed your calories through guesswork. Now there's endless ways in how you can make that happen. The way that I like to do it is I like to give myself a calorie target of about 2,000 calories, and then on top hit 10,000 steps, which would roughly be an additional 500 calories added to the budget for someone of my body composition, leading to a budget of 2,500 calories, which would realistically still be in a slight deficit for me. And in worst case, with the guesswork, in a really worst case scenario, I'd be 500 calories off. Right? So basically what I'm doing, I'm giving myself a 2,000 calorie target when realistically that would be 2,700 calories. So I basically have a 700 calorie buffer in a worst case scenario to be off, right? And still be at maintenance calories. So this way it's going to be literally near impossible for me to mess up. Alright guys, so when I'm on vacation, what I'll do is I'll always fast until 12 to 1 p.m. and I'll just have a black coffee in the morning because the caffeine is going to blunt my appetite. And then at 12 to 1 p.m. I'll just have a smaller meal of approximately 500 calories, and then maybe just literally go off of that until the dinner time, where I'll have room for 1,500 calories, which would literally basically could be anything, guys. And if I'm not going for this option, I would have a smaller meal of this 500 one at 12 or 1, maybe another 500 meal a few hours later in the afternoon, then I'll still have 1,000 calories left for dinner. And even with 1,000 calories, you could basically just fit anything into that, right? Anything except for burgers and fries, because a pizza already is going to be approximately 1,000 calories. Now obviously I won't be able to have appetizers, drinks with calories in it, desserts, etc. But I can already basically have one dish of basically anything I want and enjoy and maintain my physique. So either 500, 1,500 or 500, 500, 1,000. Or option 2, let's say on a busier day, let's say I'm gonna go on a boat excursion or something like that. So something that I would, for example, do in the past, I would go with a girl on a trip around the Phi Phi Islands in Thailand. So you would have a boat trip going across all these small islands. And then, you know, because you're so occupied that day, there's not really going to be a moment for a planned lunch. You're not that in control of what the whole day is going to be like. So in a situation like this, on this kind of busier day, I would go a bit protein sparing dieting mode, which basically means I'm going to reduce as much calories from carbs and fats. So I'm going to cut funding from carbs and fats. I'm going to kind of front load my proteins in the morning. So what I'll do is I'll have a breakfast of about 50 to 60 grams of protein for breakfast only. And that could even be something like 2 scoops of whey protein. That could be egg whites, maybe just some lean fish or some lean meat. And that will be approximately max like 200 to 250 calories. And then I'll hit the remaining calories in 2 meals somewhere in the day where it's going to be possible for me to do so. So it's either going to consist of one smaller meal and then one bigger meal of about 500 to 1,000 again, and I'll still be good. Or I'll just make one bigger massive meal throughout the day. It doesn't really matter. It's just more important that you have options and that you can make your ideal day be in the driving seat and your physique just follow without having to say no to it, right? Once I would go island hopping, for example, this is something that I would do. Front load a bit of protein, approximately 50 to 60 grams approximately, and then I'll have one small high protein meal, and then for dinner it's literally just whatever I want as long as it doesn't exceed that 1,000 calorie threshold. So this way, within all of these options, I can really enjoy for dinner, choose whatever I would like, basically eat anything without needing to track, because all of the options will fit. Done. It's that simple. So as you can see, it doesn't need to be perfect. It can't even be perfect, but I make sure I have a high buffer, so I'm always gonna be good. And each meal has a clear protein source, and I wanna keep the total high so I will not be losing muscle. And if you struggle with guess estimating, track your food for a little while, because you obviously will need some kind of rough idea of how much calories is going to be in, for example, 200 grams of steak, right? And you can only do that by tracking, and pick options for dinner that are going to be easier for you to kind of guesswork on. Instead of going for something like noodle soup or something that has like 10 different tapas and everything's just mixed up together, it's going to be tough for me to see how much approximate grams of noodles that would be, and I have no clue how much oils and sauces and whatever is going to be mixed in it. So pick dishes that have a clear separate protein, fats and carb source, like for example steak with potatoes and maybe like some vegetables on the side, can be anything, so you can clearly separately see everything on a plate. But really guys, if you leave room for that kind of larger meal of about 1,000 calorie plus, then you can really just fit anything in that except for burgers and fries. So once again, for breakfast I would either completely skip breakfast or just keep it very tiny with kind of a protein sparing kind of way. And I'll have a black coffee because it has 0 calories, and what it will do, the caffeine will kind of blunt my appetite for a little bit. I stay somewhat or fully fasted until around midday to 12 p.m. right? And then in the midday at 12 to 1 p.m. I'll have something light, mainly proteins and fats. That could be eggs, some lean meat or fish with vegetables, or for some more satiety. And the goal is going to be to get proteins in and don't just blow out on my calories yet. And then in the afternoon I'll have either a shake or a smaller kind of lighter snack if I'll have anything at all. And that could typically be something like a protein shake or something just very simple, 40 to 60 grams of protein, minimal carbs, minimal fats. And this will kind of keep my proteins on track. It will keep my hunger controlled and still leaves a big margin for that evening bigger meal. So this is something called kind of protein sparing modified dieting. I just leave room for calories in the evening and do kind of hit my proteins in, because realistically it's gonna be tougher for me when I'm fully out on the go to hit my protein targets than for me to not exceed my calories. So this system will allow you to go to the restaurants, actually enjoy the food, be able to pick basically anything, and not be that guy trying to weigh in his rice and chicken on holiday and still stay relatively lean and actually keep your entire physique if you want to. And this kind of setup of either 500 calories with 1,500 or 500, 500, 1,000 system will basically work for anyone, guys. I'm a bit of a larger person, so if you're closer to like 70 kg instead of 90 kg plus like myself, you could, just to be safe, remove 500 calories from this daily budget, stick to something of 1,500. But even with those daily steps of 10,000, you'll still be good at 2,000, guys. You will not really see any realistic drastic changes to your physique, even if you're at 70 to 75 kg with this approach. So you can sort it out kind of this way or in any way you would like. And then guys, damage control after overeating, because in some scenarios you might still just kind of mess up. There will be nights where you will just overdo it, extra starters, desserts, cocktails, whatever it may be. The worst thing you can do is go panic mode and then just give up for the rest of the trip. So no kind of all or nothing mindset in this, and the rule is going to be very different. If you overdid it one day, lower calories the next day. Just reset it. Because you overdid it one day, it's going to be easier for you to kind of tone down the next day, because you'll have excess energy from the calories from the day before. So it's going to be easier for you to kind of fast longer. So that's something that you can do. Fast longer in the morning. Train fasted for once, for example. You get plenty of glycogen storage from the big meals and the big calories from the day before. And yes, it's not going to be fully optimal, but this is not a period in your life for anything fully optimal. You're damage controlling and having a good time on your vacation. That's what this is all about, without guilt and without damage. So keep the daytime food very light and keep it high protein focused. That one adjustment can completely blunt the damage of one big night out. Another thing that you can do is a bit of a pre-trip mini cut. If I know a trip is going to be extremely heavy, so an example for this could be you're going on a business trip, it's not really going to be you deciding how to spend your time, but you're really gonna have to bend to kind of other people and the scenarios that you'll be getting in with a lot of food, more social events, this type of stuff. It will be helpful to sometimes drop calories and carbs for about a week or two before you travel. And the idea behind this is, if I would, for example, arrive slightly depleted, lower carbs, glycogen storage in the muscles not maxed, then the first few days when you arrive of higher calories and higher carbs are kind of going to function as a bit of a refeed. So the muscles will kind of soak it up. The leaner you are, the more it will soak it up in the beginning. You will look fuller, more veins popping, but body fat will not be spiking up immediately. So you don't have to do this for every trip, but before a big one like this, where there's gonna be tons of social interactions, scenarios where you, for example, will not have control over what you're going to be eating, it can make a huge difference to how you will look in at least those first few days. And then once you're going on your trip, the plain food might look free, but it's not going to be free in terms of your physique. Quality is going to be usually poor, macros are going to be all over the place, and it rarely leaves you feeling good. So my rule for this one is going to be, most of the time, I just don't eat plain food. If it's an early flight, I'll just fast. If it's later in the day, I'll eat properly before I fly, or I'll just meal prep something small like an omelet or like chicken with rice or whatever. If it's gonna be long flights, for example, from Madrid to Mexico, where I'm at right now, then I'll just do a whole meal prep, guys, because it's gonna be, 15 plus hours of traveling, and it's gonna be much better for me if I just eat my own good, clean meals instead of all this crap that you get on the airplane. And alcohol is gonna be the part where most people will destroy their physiques on holiday. It's all just empty calories, and it also tends to kind of kill your training quality, sleep, mood, and eventually also will kill your muscle mass. My approach now is very simple. I just don't drink as much as I used to. Most nights I don't bother drinking at all, and if I do drink, I keep it under 3 drinks, because up to 3 beers, for example, has no effect on testosterone levels. The extent of testosterone going down is going to be the biggest determining factor in your capacity to retain muscle mass. Have an alcohol equivalent of 6 beers or more, and testosterone will go down for about 36 to 38% for 48 hours. That's damage. That makes you think, doesn't it? Sorry for that reality check. You already have a decent understanding of the damage that drinking will do, but now, with this information, it will really start to make you think, which is exactly what it should be doing. And this is the reason, guys, why I, at max, maybe drink 2 to 3 times a year, which already will filter out kind of what moments that could possibly be. When I do decide to drink, I will always stick to low-calorie options. Think stuff like vodka plus 0-calorie soda, and I'll avoid sugary mixed drinks, cocktails loaded with syrup, constant beers, and heavy wine all night. And roughly speaking, 3 to 4 drinks can easily already be 400 to 500 calories or more. So if you're gonna drink and you genuinely want to stay lean, understand this, you're going to have to eat less to make room for all of that. For me, alcohol also tends to suppress my appetite the next day. Partially also because of, lack of sleep quality. So on nights that I do drink, I will naturally eat less the next days. And that's partially how I maintain leanness whenever I do. But long term, regular drinking will kill your gains and strength, so I keep it minimal. There will be places where it's genuinely going to be hard to eat clean. Sometimes the only options for lunch are going to be stuff like pizza, pastries, deep fried stuff, nothing with decent protein. So in those situations, I will not force to eat a bad meal. I'll often just skip that meal or keep it tiny and save the calories for later in that day when I am able to find a proper restaurant. And at dinner, I'll try to go for something like either a full fish. Sea bass is gonna be a great example. I actually pick this almost all the time when I'm in Spain. A big steak or a whole roast chicken. Lean proteins like whitefish are gonna be a perfect pick. Low fat, high protein, often very tasty because you're gonna be spending at this seaside locations where obviously the fish is gonna come super fresh straight out of the ocean, so it's gonna be super tasty as well. A full fish can easily give you 80 to 100 grams of protein in one go, which makes up for a lower protein day. My biggest struggle on the road is usually not so much being able to not exceed my calories, but to be able to hit my protein targets. So evenings is often where I really try to catch up. Now what if there's no room for the gym? Sometimes you just get unlucky. No real gym nearby. Hotel gym is gonna be a treadmill or maybe something like an exercise ball. In that case, try not to quit. You just downgrade your expectations and you keep the habit alive. That's what this is going to be all about. That's what I would recommend you, simply because keeping certain habits in is going to be easier than gaining them back when you lose them all. So even if it's like bodyweight stuff, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, maybe some stuff with bands, band rows, band presses, band curls, band triceps, whatever you can do. Do I love it? Absolutely not. It's not really glamorous in any way or form. Does it keep you in the game and stop your body from deflating? Yes, it will keep you more full. It will make you mentally feel like you're still on top of stuff. So if that's all you've got and you want the muscles to really stay full, you just get it done in whatever way you can. If not, totally no loss at all if you don't train for a few weeks, as long as, again, protein, hydration and sleep is going to be covered. And in case your dream ideal vacation is going to be a bit too loose, I want you to understand this. Yes, it's good to deload sometimes. Yes, it's fine to have a week where you're absolutely more relaxed or totally relaxed, but if every trip turns into something of no training, junk food every single day, and heavy drinking, you don't just lose progress, but you lose your habits. So here's what usually happens, and I've seen this time and time again within my coaching. You go away for a week, you don't train, you eat everything, you come back home with holiday blues, no structure, no next trip to look forward to. The motivation to get back in the gym is just not gonna be there. 1 week off becomes 2 weeks, then 3, then suddenly you're starting from scratch again. So if you perhaps instead just keep training 2 to 4 times per week and make mostly sensible food decisions, it's gonna be incredibly easy to slide straight back into your normal routine once you get home. The most important thing within this is to know yourself and know your weaknesses. If you're the type of person to fall off very easily and you don't have a coach, for example, to get you back on track, then perhaps take that into consideration when you are designing your ideal holiday and set it up in such a way where you can still enjoy the way you want, but without falling off. When I, for example, would be tempted to just say, screw it, 5 drinks, dessert, skip the gym, I ask myself, how am I going to feel in the morning? How am I going to look at the beach? Is this worth trading a tighter waist and better photos for 20 minutes of pleasure? How am I going to feel after I've eaten this meal? And this is a very good one. What would fit Casper or fit me do? The ideal version of myself that I'm trying to live up to. How would he deal in this situation? Most of the time, the answer is gonna be no. That's the voice you need to listen to if you want to stay lean year round and not just for one holiday. So this is my exact approach of how I stay lean when I'm traveling. I plan my trips around good gyms, I train in the morning, I walk a lot, I anchor my day around high protein meals and I leave room for a lot of flexibility for in the evening. I use fasting as a smarter choice to undo the damage when I do slip, and I keep my habits alive, even if the gym or food options aren't going to be perfect. If you found this helpful, like this video, please don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to get in your best ideal killer shape, the dream physique you've always aspired to have, then check out the link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.